I am honored to give the floor to His Excellency Rimbink Pato, Minister for Foreign Affairs and Trade of the independent state of Papua New Guinea. You have the floor, sir.
Your Excellency, Madam Maria Fernanda Garces, President of the General Assembly, Mr. Secretary General of the United Nations, Excellencies and distinguished delegates. Today, I am pleased to address the General Assembly on behalf of my Prime Minister, the Honourable Peter O'Neill, and the government and people of Papua New Guinea. Madam President, I congratulate you and the people of Ecuador on your election as the first woman leader from the Latin American and the Caribbean region to preside over this august assembly. You can count on Papua New Guinea as a committed partner to support your work during your presidency. I would also like to thank the ongoing President, His Excellency Miroslav Lajčák, for his excellent work in the past year. It is also important to commend the leadership of the Secretary General for reform of the United Nations and its systems. The United Nations being an organization that is so fundamental to the peace, prosperity, and security of the world. Madam President, this is an exciting year for Papua New Guinea as we host the Asia-Pacific Economic Forum known as APEC. By doing so, our country is emerging on the global stage as never before. Located in the Pacific Ocean, we are part of the vast blue continent of island nations linked by sea. We also border with Southeast Asia and are within sight of Australia. We have more than 8 million people, the biggest economy, and the largest landmass of the Pacific Island countries. We are joining with other Pacific sisters and brothers in a mighty regional endeavor to protect the ocean and its bounty and to bring prosperity to our peoples. Nations near and far are learning that our country, Papua New Guinea, is a great treasury of riches. We have the third largest rainforest in the world after Brazil and the Congo. We are the guardians of a third of the global supply of tuna, the fish that feeds the world. Our land is home to a vast storehouse of gold, silver, nickel, oil, and gas. We are one people forged together from more than 1,000 tribes. With more than 800 distinct languages, we are the most linguistically diverse nation on earth. Yes, we have issues that all developing countries face, but we're not letting them daunt us as we strive for progress and prosperity. This year, we're taking a giant stride as we host the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum. The APEC economies encompass 39% of the world's population and 48% of the world's trade. It involves the United States, the People's Republic of China, Japan, as well as other significant economies. APEC itself, in many ways, is a regional example of attempts to achieve what all members of the United Nations are working so hard to accomplish. Many issues are on the table, either formally or in informal meetings on the sidelines. 1. Prosperity through free trade, the founding rationale for APEC. Plus, 2. Cleaning up and protecting the natural environment. 3. Inclusiveness so that none of our precious human beings are left behind. 4. Embracing the digital economy. 5. And very importantly, gender equality. International trade, Madam President, is an important engine for inclusive economic growth and poverty eradication, as well as a critical source to finance development and achieving sustainable development. As APEC host, we have opportunities like never before. It is the largest international event in our country's history. We are well prepared for the Leaders' Summit in mid-November 2018. And the world will see the stunning APEC house, an outstanding architectural creation inspired by our local culture. We thank the APEC economies for their material and organizational support, and this includes in particular, number 1, Australia, number 2, Canada, number 3, China, number 4, Indonesia, number 5, Japan, number 6, New Zealand, number 7, Singapore, number 8, South Korea, number 9, the United States of America, and there are many more others, too numerous to mention. To add to the Pacific Island flavor of the event, we have invited all Pacific Island leaders to come to our country during this time. Through APEC, we have opportunities to attract trade and direct foreign investment. It will continue to provide us with access to the knowledge and to the dialogue with APEC economy leaders who will be in attendance. This capacity building support in our country would lead directly to business growth and creation of more jobs for our people. However, given our small and open economy, which is subject to external forces, we join all other members of the international community for the respect for and strengthening of the rules-based international multilateral trading system. Hosting this event is a huge challenge for a developing country such as ours. But, Madam President, people can sometimes paralyze themselves by focusing only on their perceived shortfalls or their problems. But we in Papua New Guinea have decided to give it a go. This also applies to our view of the United Nations and its work. Of course, we must acknowledge and work to eliminate the great problems we are confronting today. But when doing so, let us all keep our eyes on the prize, our vision of peace, security, our return to a pristine environment, and an ongoing prosperity. The key to overcoming these various challenges lies in us, we, the people of the United Nations. Let us work on being united, being stronger together in a system based on mutual respect, friendship, dialogue, and multilateralism. Unity, of course, is the answer. It is the greatest power on the planet. Madam President, 2 weeks ago, Papua New Guinea celebrated a 43rd anniversary of independence as an unbroken democracy. We continue to consolidate our economic and structural reforms, supported by responsible monetary and fiscal policies aimed at a balanced budget. With recovering oil and gas prices and several new major energy and mining projects well advanced, we are optimistic about our future economic outlook. Madam President, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is a solid pathway that holds much promise for the international community. The choice to enjoy its full potential lies in our hands. At the Pacific regional level, of course, earlier this month in Nauru, our forum leaders reaffirmed our collective commitment. The call for collective action is in the Boyo Declaration, a copy of which was delivered to His Excellency the Secretary General of the United Nations yesterday. At the national level, we recognize the importance of putting in place the basic building blocks needed to enable sustainable, inclusive, and participatory development. Both Australia and New Zealand, our good friends, have eloquently addressed this August Assembly on issues facing our region and the world and the requirements and the obligations for collective action. Madam President, an essential part of our development challenge is harnessing the vastly untapped potential of our increasing youth population, which today constitute about 60% of our nation. Creating employment opportunities in both the formal and informal sectors is a key priority to address the needs of the youth in our country. We have hopes for a transformative nature of the digital economy, which is truly a game changer. In addition, one of our greater challenges is to protect women and girls, to ensure that they have full equality in our society. This, we believe, is a fundamental human right. We have a long way to go in this area. We are determined to find ways to progress for the women and girls themselves and for the good of the nation. In fact, our long-term advancement depends on this great improvement in what we believe is a very crucial area. We are working hard to do this through policies and laws, combating gender-based violence, providing business opportunities in the formal and informal sector, such as microcredit schemes, investing in our girls' and women's education at all levels of our education system. The changes are noticeable in my country, as we have put an additional 1 million more young people to schools, and in particular, girls. We, of course, express our gratitude to the support of our multilateral and bilateral development partners, including the United Nations system, in assisting in more ways than one to achieve our goals. Madam President, we are preparing for our people to cope with the increasing dangers arising out of climate change, which is very real for us. Earlier this month, as I have said, at the Pacific Island Leaders Forum in Nauru, we reaffirm our strong commitment to work together to combat the adverse impacts of climate change under the UN Framework for Convention on Climate Change, the Paris Agreement, and other frameworks for resilient development of the Pacific region. The Boyo communique of the Pacific Island Forum leaders puts our position beyond doubt. We therefore strongly recommend the Secretary General's summit on climate in September 2019. In February this year, Madam President, Papua New Guinea experienced a tragic and unprecedented earthquake, the worst in our history. It hit 5 of our provinces, killed nearly 200 people, and displaced nearly 600,000 others. Many others were injured and traumatized. Vital infrastructure was destroyed. The national economy slowed. Compounding our situation were 2 separate volcanic eruptions. We are not alone. Accordingly, we sympathize with other countries such as Indonesia, Japan, the Philippines, China, and the United States, and the countries of the Caribbean, and others who have been in recent times affected by months of natural disasters and climate change-induced challenges. We express our gratitude to our bilateral partners, including the UN system, Australia, New Zealand, China, Japan, and others, as well as the private sector and civil society groups who stood with us in our time of need. We are now revamping our economy and disaster-related plans to address similar events for the future. Madam President, we welcome, of course, the efforts to replenish the finance available in the Green Climate Fund and thank the contributors for your generosity. Improved access and in a timely manner is imperative, especially for small island developing countries like ours, to benefit from this important support to help us mitigate, adapt and build resilience to the ravages of climate change, adverse impacts and natural disasters. Again, this is a call for collective global action so that all small island developing states will benefit and so seek it accordingly. Madam President, our government notes the increasing interest from the international community on the imminent referendum in Papua New Guinea's autonomous region of Bougainville in June of 2019 under the Bougainville Peace Agreement. We are fully committed to this agreement. We have appointed this year the former Prime Minister of Ireland, Mr. Bernie Hahn, to preside over the work of the Bougainville Referendum Commission. We are keen for the Commission to begin its mandate soon. We are grateful again for our multilateral and bilateral development partners, including the United Nations, for working together with us on this important national issue for my country. We want to emphasize, however, that the work of partnership should in no way, and I repeat, in no way, undermine the sovereignty of Papua New Guinea over its territory in accordance with international law. Madam President, we welcome the easing of tensions on the Korean Peninsula and commend the efforts made by all parties involved and further encourage peaceful dialogue. We support the moves to keep sanctions in place, not as a punishment, but as a real incentive to get rid of the nuclear weapons and to implement fully all of the UN Security Council resolutions and to bring prosperity to the peoples of the Democratic Republic of Korea, People's Democratic Republic of Korea. Madam President, in this regard, we applaud and support the efforts of the President of the General Assembly to draw global attention to the dangers of the weapons of mass destruction. For our part, we are working towards signing the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. Madam President, let me take this opportunity to share with this Assembly the current status of the refugees and migrants on our Manus Island. The processing centre was officially closed by my government on the 31st of October 2017, following the decision of the Supreme Court in April 2016. We are therefore working closely with Australia in resettling qualified asylum seekers, including here in the United States. Other migrants still remain in our country. Each will be addressed on a case-by-case basis. That is our contribution to the extent possible, in partnership with Australia, to address human trafficking, people smuggling, and international crimes. Madam President, as a maritime nation, the ocean's agenda continues to be of great importance to us as it contributes significantly to our nation's well-being. We are working to ensure equitable returns from our marine resources, particularly in combating illegal, unregulated and unreported fishing in Papua New Guinea's territorial waters. We are grateful, Madam President, for the close cooperation of like-minded countries in the WTO who are working to address harmful fisheries subsidies that foster IUU fishing. As the Pacific Islands Forum meeting, under our Blue Pacific Continent theme, we have agreed to, 1, ensure the region's maritime boundaries, 2, to work to eliminate maritime litter, and 3, to enhance maritime surveillance to deter illicit activities. Madam President, as I conclude, I want to draw your attention once again to our country as we prepare to host the APEC Leaders Summit this November. As the world increasingly turns its attention to the Pacific Ocean, we are witnessing the announced interest of a range of countries such as Australia, China, France, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and the United States. As one of the nations of the Blue Pacific continent, we welcome that interest. However, we urge all to play an appropriate role according to the accepted rules of international order, so that the Blue Pacific Ocean will be a zone of cooperation, of stability and security, and of a pristine beauty environment for future prosperity. And may I conclude, Madam President, by expressing my fervent hope of our people that the Pacific Ocean forever lives up to the meaning of its name, the ocean of peace. I thank you.
I thank His Excellency Rimbink Pato, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade of the Independent State of Papua New Guinea. Thank you, Excellency. I would like now to give the floor to His Excellency Yusuf bin Alawi bin Abdullah, Minister responsible for Foreign Affairs of Oman.